Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the first ever Monday episode of Investing Bros. We got a lot to talk about because crypto is up. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano are all up. However, the charts are showing potentially there's not necessarily a lot left for them to go up before we might need to dip again. Elon this weekend also on Twitter rose quite the predicament. Looking like there's a lot of stuff out there being exposed when it comes to the Democratic Party. We're going to be talking about that and a lot more. Got a lot of interesting things to dive into. But before we get there, make sure, if you have not already, smash that like button. If you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel right now. We are quickly growing. We don't even have a full week under our belt. Got 500 subs. T-Shirt, what do you think about that? What are your thoughts about our current success rate?
Dude, I think it's awesome, man. I don't think I was not expecting us to be so strong out of the gate here, but we are, and you know it's breathtaking. And we owe it all to you guys. You know, you guys are awesome, and you know some of you have been friends of ours for a while, and just can't say enough how much we are grateful. So super cool.
Yeah, there's also other cool, really cool news for those athletes, the sports fans out there, college football. First of all, we now know who's going to be playing in the playoffs, so that's really interesting. T-Shirt, do you know who's playing in the playoffs? I know you were at drill this weekend.
Alabama and Georgia?
No. Alabama does not make the cut, which is phenomenal.
Really?
I'd love to know in chat what people think about that.
I know TCU lost.
They did, but the current, it's going to be this. And what's really funny is Michigan is the big winner.
Okay.
Because TCU lost.
Yeah.
But they stayed in at number 3 rather than falling to 4.
Okay.
So Georgia at number 1 is going to have to play Ohio State. Michigan's playing TCU.
Oh.
And I am super glad TCU's in there, but I'm under no delusion. I was talking with Matt C. about this yesterday and Jeffrey Fitz. I'm under no delusion that if Alabama had gotten in, it would have beaten TCU. So Michigan, TCU's they're not a pushover. Michigan's got to show up.
Yeah.
But I would much rather be playing TCU than Ohio State if I was Michigan. They lucked out there at number 2 with them keeping TCU at 3. The other big thing in the sports world, then we'll move back in here to crypto in just a second. Today, for any of you college football fans that are out there, the transfer portal is live. So expect a buttload of transfer portal entries and then some new commitments, especially with Dion out there in Colorado. He's already kind of kicking up some dirt out there. Colorado might become a scary team, at least very talented here in the next couple of years. But this isn't a sports channel. Maybe some other day we'll do sports stuff. But I found that interesting, and it's I know we have a couple of sports fans out there, college football fans out there. Let me know in the chat what your guys' thoughts are about all of that. But T-Shroom, anything else we got to? What are some headlines we're talking about today?
I mean, the biggest sports
news?
Update is that the U.S. unfortunately lost.
Oh, that's right. I did forget in soccer.
And they're out. But hey, yeah. What can you do? Some other big headlines coming up. We've got some pretty big ones, guys. Tim teased in what our thumbnail is today, Elon Musk alleges SBF donated over $1 billion to Democrats. We're going to break that down and see exactly what that could mean for markets and for crypto. Also, the White House has been making some hints towards potentially cannabis being rescheduled, which would be extremely big for that industry and for some stocks that we can talk about a little bit. And then it's a huge day for oil prices, huge week. Expect some very volatile prices in energy this week as the EU bans Russian oil, OPEC decides to continue to cut supply, and China opens, increasing demand for oil. And then also we're going to be getting into kind of the Democratic Party is splitting on crypto. We're going to analyze that a little bit. And then also swing buy partners with Chainlink to secure Bitcoin bridge. So taking another swing buy at the bridge world that has been riddled with hacks. We're going to cover that in just a few minutes here.
Hopefully this one works. That's been a big thing. Bridges have I think at this point in crypto, if you hear the word bridge, you kind of cringe a little bit. You're like, okay, how are we going to lose money on this one? So hopefully this one sticks. Before we jump in and do some technical analysis, because I do think there's a couple interesting things I want to show you guys on the charts. Let's engage with chat for just a second. Let's see who is here. First of all, we got almost 30 people watching. Thank you so much. Go ahead and smash that like button. We're such a small channel. This is one of the easiest things to do. We usually can finish the stream with more likes than we even have concurrent people watching. So go ahead and help us out. Get those like buttons in. And remember, if you are not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. This is your first time here. Welcome. We're so glad you're here. But something you can do. We are a smaller channel. So consequently, YouTube is not going to push us in the algorithm that well. A lot of you have even commented on sometimes you don't see our stuff pop up. So go ahead and smash that notification bell so that when we go live, you guys will see it. You'll be able to come back in. And we have some news. I'm not going to talk about it today, but we're talking about it. So there's some discussions about potentially doing some other content in the afternoon. But we'll let you guys know when that happens. But you would never know unless you hit that notification bell, so make sure you go ahead and do that. Let's see who's in chat here. Cryptex is in chat. I saw Cryptex. He actually reached out to me. He's going to be helping to start a Discord. So keep an eye out for that, everybody. We're going to be having a Discord go very soon. And love having you guys as friends helping run that stuff. Tyler Main's in chat. What's going on, man? He says cross-chain compatibility will become one of the most important paths of the crypto space, in my opinion.
It's true. It's true. It already is extremely important because it's been so riddled with failure. So many bridges have been exploited. So but we have to get that right, or else the crypto and blockchain is potentially useless to actual serious money transfer.
Yeah, that's true. Who else is here? Servando Estrada says 6 a.m. over here. Woke up just for you guys. That means Servando, does that mean you're in California or Mexico? Matt C said that's too early for him.
Yeah, we appreciate the wake up.
Crypto Sec guy is in chat. What's up, Jeffrey? Jeffrey, how does it feel to have Deion Sanders probably kicking up a storm in college football, but not doing it for the alma mater FSU? Probably gonna steal some recruits from FSU, to be honest with you.
It's rough.
So what's gonna happen here? Yeah, I forgot. The World Cup is going on. It was sad when the U.S. went out. It was very sad. When the US
I've
went
actually got some more sports news.
You have more sports news?
Yeah,
this is the time to fit it in.
So my dad, who I don't know if he watches yet, but I think my mom watches. My dad was he's in the market right now he's sold some Mickey Mantle cards. He's wanting to sell them.
Oh wow.
He's got some old Mickey Mantles and he went and got a quote. And so I was helping him research some prices and stuff. And it looks like, the local guy is going to give him some good money for it. So
cool.
Mickey Mantle, back in the news.
Come on.
In my life, at least.
No, I see here Alex Green talking about, because Alex, I think, is from England. Let me know in chat, who do you guys think at this point has the World Cup in the bag? I don't know. Yeah. France is hard to say not. England is looking. England looks like the most, except for the game against the United States. So that's our claim to victory. England looks like the most dominating team so far.
Yeah,
we'll see. It's anyone's game. But let me know. I want to see in chat who do you guys think is going to win and finish out the World Cup? Germany once again. Poor Germany.
I honestly
would think that they could make.
I think Argentina is kind of the sleeper because they got a bad rap in the first game.
Yeah.
But it was they had so many offside goals. They scored like 2 or 3 goals, but they just were offsides. And so those are simple mistakes. You shouldn't make them. But at the end of the day, Argentina has been dominant since then. And I think they were dominant in that first game. They just got unlucky.
I think it's going to be hard to say it's not going to be one of the 4. France, England. Let's see, France, England, Argentina, or Brazil. Brazil also, even with the Neymar injury, is still super stacked.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's go ahead and jump in. Let's get back into some charts. We're going to engage with chat a little bit later. If there's a lot of comments about the World Cup, maybe we'll mention that again later. Let's go ahead and go to my screen, T-Shroom, and we're going to start off here on Bitcoin. So I told you guys in the intro, if you guys didn't join, thank you so much. If you weren't here for the beginning of it, thank you for jumping in here. Bitcoin is sitting in a spot where we actually, in terms of the recent week, we actually came up here and peaked. We got all the way up to about 17,400. So this was good. We're building some momentum on Bitcoin. The head and shoulders pattern, the inverse head and shoulders pattern we had drawn over here last week. I'm going to go delete these here in just a second, but those were the left shoulder, right shoulder, and the head. Gives us a prediction, the top prediction right there on 18,000. Of course, we talked about it last week. There's also this zone of former support now we should be utilizing as resistance around 17,600. So for those reasons, what I'm looking at right now is this little zone right here, this box, as a potential spot that Bitcoin could hit its head on and then start to dip back down. Remember, we talked about this last week as well. Keep all these lines on your chart if you guys have them drawn. Over the last week, week we kind of broke out of a symmetrical triangle pattern. Some people thought it was a bear pennant, but the fact that we broke upwards means that more likely we're treating this like a symmetrical triangle pattern. Don't be surprised. You know, we could still go down and set a new bottom, but for right now, the momentum is to the upside, especially with a lot of thoughts being that next week, Jerome Powell and the Fed will actually start to cool off, maybe dipping down to 50 or 25 basis points. We'll have to wait about 9 days before we get that information out there. But for now, Bitcoin is climbing. But I told you in the intro, there are some things in the charts that are a little bit, they're a little alarming to me. So first of all, we're not getting that far away from this zone that, technically speaking, from a technical analysis standpoint, should be a place we're looking at as a place of resistance. But let me pull up the oscillators and kind of show you what I'm looking at right here. This does not mean we have to reverse right now, but as it stands this moment, we are looking at our bearish RSI divergence, which would tell us that there's a trend change coming. We are rising up in our price, but the RSI, after getting overextended to the upside, now the next peak came to the downside. So this is a problem. The Lux Algo oscillator as well is flashing. It's not quite coming in with that red cloud just yet, but it is showing we're closer to the top than we are at the bottom. I think if there's bulls out there saying, Tim, I think we have a little further way to go, I would not be surprised to see the price kind of, Nope, I want to draw my marker. I wouldn't be surprised to see the price come back down one more time, set a new top hitting into this box somewhere in that region. I'm going to stay for now at the bottom side of it, but it could get up a little higher. But for right now, let's just go right there. And then what I wouldn't be surprised to see is the RSI do something similar where it comes back down and then sets a lower peak itself with a triple touched bearish RSI divergence, and then that's what sends Bitcoin to the downside. I don't want all those marker points. I'm gonna have to go back later and erase all those because that can. All right, Tim, grab that. There we go. I wouldn't be surprised to see a triple touch bearish RSI divergence right here. Another reason for thinking that, let me pull up the Lux Algo itself, the not just the oscillator, but we on the smaller time frames have been under a contrarian sell signal. Now the good thing here for bulls, and the thing about contrarian sell signals, they kind of read the metrics. They're looking at the numbers, they're looking at the volume, they're looking at everything, and they're kind of saying, all right, we have had a lot of momentum this way. It's about time that the roles reverse. So you're going to see that not always do these things get respected immediately. Right here, we had a buy signal a little bit before the bottom, but of course the bottom was close. As far as this one, we have a sell signal right now on the hourly chart, the 2-hourly chart. Oh, it's not. I'm not waiting long enough for it to load. But you guys are gonna have to believe me on this one because it's taking for a while. We have it on the 4-hourly chart. We have it on the 6-hourly chart. Let me see how long this one takes to load. Oh, actually, sorry. In the 6-hourly, we're still under buy. So the 6-hourly and up, we start staying under the buy signal. But what you have us doing is you have us sitting currently right now in take profit on Lux Algo. So when I'm looking at these things, I'm not saying there's not a chance that we still don't climb a little higher, but I think that the climb, this little rally we've had here recently, is slowly but surely coming to a close, especially on Bitcoin. But I'm going to show you what I'm looking at on Ethereum and Cardano as well. But let me know in chat what you guys are seeing on the charts. Either way, let's say this price action does happen. Let's say that we do in fact end up getting a little bit of a dip in price. I'm going to kind of redraw this. Keep your eyes on these other lines. The reason I'm telling you to keep these lines, these trends on your list is because they will play a very important role when we start to dip back down. The bull staying in charge, potentially what we can get away with is coming to this box and then only having to come down to this blue line, although I would be very surprised if that's the lowest we go. I actually think it's time to potentially come back down. But then it's when we kind of look here, hey, can we stay above this yellow line, green line, and find support there? Or potentially, do we end up seeing the price end up keeling over, setting a new low, and maybe coming down here and retesting this red line somewhere down here for a new lower low? Let me take the RSI off so you guys can see that. That's the scenario right now that I'm looking at. The other thing, when we zoom out, let me go last thing on Bitcoin here, and we'll move on, is looking at some of these longer term trend lines. I'm going to deal with that later. These longer term trend lines, for example, this falling wedge pattern that we actually did break out of, but we're still playing with this blue dotted line that you guys can see. Let me make that a little thicker for you guys, just in case your screen is darker. That line's going to play another important role, potentially right on that red. Is this the new bottom we're talking about when we're coming in here? And if you're kind of playing this out over the next couple of months, we could be touching that 9,000-10,000 that a lot of analysts have been talking about, and still stay above that line of support. support and then potentially use that to rally into a new bull market. Anything is possible at this point. Just keep these lines on your chart so that you can be prepared for anything. Again, that's really important. You go off my screen for just a second here, T-Shroom, and then I'll jump into Ethereum. Anything is possible. I wish we could sit here and tell you with certainty that the bottom is in, or, hey guys, the bottom is not in. You need to go ahead and wait. Nobody can do that. I know there's a lot of influencers out there that are going to tell you, I know 100% the bottom is going to be at 11,300, and then there's going to be another one who says the bottom is already in. It's nothing but up from here. The unfortunate detail about that is we do not know. Nobody knows. Unless there is, like, you know, I think there actually probably is some form of manipulative person out there that understands what's happening and they know, but they're not going to tell us because that's the whole point of their game. What you do as an investor and as a trader is you just have scenarios where you prepare for anything. You have your good buy spots, you have your good sell spots, you have your portfolio of I do not touch this no matter whether the bottom is already in or whether we go all the way down to 5,000, but then you have your trading portfolio where like, hey, I'm going to pick some good spots. I'm going to set up my stop losses. If I have a bad trade, that's fine. I'm going to pick myself up, move on to the next one. And as long as I'm profitable on more of my trades than I lose, I'm overall a successful trader. So keep your head up. Do not get discouraged if we end up going down. I just wanted to prepare you for potentially anything. Let's move on to Ethereum, where, you know, actually of the three we're going to talk about today, unless we have time later in the show to do more, which I don't think we will based on how much news we have, Ethereum is the one that I'm a little more optimistic about than the others. First of all, we have the longer time frames here. We've broken out of this, this small, let me zoom in here for just a second. We kind of broke out of this falling wedge pattern. We did it falsely before, but this one gives me a little more hope that it's more of a sticking point. We're currently sitting right on former resistance, turned support, turned resistance. Now we've turned it back into support. So that's really interesting. In a longer time frame, we're getting closer to breaking out of this falling wedge pattern, which again, doesn't mean, we might be able to come down here one more time, set a new bottom. I've heard people talking about $800, $600 Ethereum price. That is possible within this trend. I'm not guaranteeing it's going to happen, but keep your eyes on those lines and those charts and what's happening. But zooming in here, I'm going to show you guys why I'm a little more optimistic about Ethereum more so than I am Bitcoin or even Cardano. So first of all, I told you this support level, we talked about this last week, has been a significant role in Ethereum over the last couple of months as resistance and support. And the fact that we're back above it is really nice. There is one thing I don't like that in this smaller time frame, and I'm going to go to the 1 hourly chart to kind of address this a little bit more. I don't like that in the smaller time frame, after using this zone of support, technically the whole zone of support, but the fact that we dipped in and set a lower low, it's not my favorite. But what I do like that we're doing right now is, unlike Bitcoin, so let me go to Bitcoin real quick, where our tops are rising, RSI is going down, and this one is a little bit different on the hourly chart, but on the 4 hourly chart, it is that way, where the tops are going down, but the tops are rising. Same thing, we're going to talk about Cardano here in just a second. You guys are getting a sneak peek. The tops are rising, we're getting higher highs, but the RSI is going down. Ethereum is working on forming a triple top. Now, double tops, for those of you who have been doing technical analysis, more often than not are bad signs. Double tops are saying, all right, this place is really strong, it's resistance, let's go ahead and kill it. When you start getting to triple tops, especially if we end up coming back down and bouncing up a quadruple top, every time you hit a level, you're kind of weakening that level, especially when we're talking about flat resistance levels or support levels. So I'm not saying that Ethereum automatically is the best coin out here in the next run and it's going to break through and have a guaranteed rally. What I'm saying is, rather than having strong bearish RSI divergence where the price tops are rising and the RSI tops are declining, this is weak divergence, but also a triple top, which is slowly but surely knocking out these levels. Now, I told you what I don't like is the fact that we came down lower before doing it. I would actually prefer that we set up an ascending triangle where every single time we get rejected, and I'll give you an example, I wish that every single time we got rejected, it would get less and less and less, and we'd be setting lower or higher lows, and then we are able to break through. That's not exactly what's happening, but the fact that we are having a triple top right here, and the fact that we have such a strong level of support right below us, this is the only thing I'm liking about Ethereum. Also, the RSI, as low as it's dipping, it could potentially be regrouping. It could be potentially reloading up for a brand new rally, and we could see the price come back down. We could see it come fat into these levels, maybe even come all the way down to the bottom level of support level. But remember, this is a zone of support. Therefore, as much as we like when it only has to bounce off the top, as long as we stay above this bottom level, we're still staying above this zone of support. It could be a regrouping pattern so that Ethereum can rally here in the next couple of weeks. This would make sense, especially here in about 9 days when we get that Fed announcement. A lot of traders and investors are waiting on what Jerome Powell is going to say to make their investments. And we know the Ethereum, I know there's some speculation out there, is it going to become a security? But right now, unless things have changed, I think there's a lot more institutional money going into Ethereum and thinking its future is bright than Bitcoin. But we'll talk about that a little bit more because I think that could change here very soon as well. Either way, I'm liking where I'm seeing the oscillators and the price action of Ethereum and what formation it's forming better right now than I do on Bitcoin. Another thing you're going to see on almost all of these, you're going to see this on Cardano here in just a second, but Ethereum seems to be doing the same thing as well, is forming a rising trading channel. Let me grab my other line here. So keep your eyes on these levels as well. Let's watch as we start to make our way back towards this green line, what the price levels want to do. But again, we do not have strong bearish RSI divergence on Ethereum. We only have weak, and that could just be a regrouping period so we have another good rally. But I'm going to move on to Cardano. Let me know what you guys think about Ethereum. Even fundamentally, do you guys think that Ethereum will end up becoming a security, or do you think it will stay safe as an altcoin that maybe just stays with it as a commodity? Let's move on to Cardano. And there's a couple things I want to mention here on Cardano. I know last week we were talking about the fact that it had a ascending triangle, which was really good. It ended up breaking bullish out of this ascending triangle, but there's another formation starting to form that is a little concerning to me. If you guys are looking at this red line right here, that right there is going back to the peak that we had back here on the 27th of November. It's starting to they're starting to come together, converge these two lines, which would give us a rising wedge, which would give us a bearish breakout. So I'm watching to see if this red line stays consistent. Again, we have these touches 1, 2, and then here just a couple of hours ago we had the third touch. Bulls really need to beat this red line. I would prefer them continue to stay with this yellow line, which would give us an ascending trading channel rather than a rising wedge pattern. So I'm watching that red line. I'm hoping that what ends up happening is we end up flipping it, turning it in support. Those of you who are watching, you know that the prediction on the ascending triangle, so we didn't have all this price action, we were just looking at this flat top with the rising support line, would send us back up to a key level at 34 cents on Cardano. This is one of the strongest trading levels in Cardano, and that goes, let's go out to the 3 daily chart. I'm going to show you guys just in case you weren't here last week when I was talking about this. Come on, oscillators, go down. I'm going to pull up my fixed range volume profile and you guys will see, oh, wow. I'm going to go to my log chart for this. It doesn't really matter which chart you look for on this one because they're just measuring the same levels. But I wanted to show you with my fixed range volume profile what we got going on here. Let's go all the way more towards the bottom of this. And you guys are going to see two levels right here that we've been hovering around, those two peaks right there around 31 cents and about 34. Yes, we dropped a little bit below that 31 cents, but it's mostly wicks. When we're looking here at the 3 daily chart, we're heading back up above this 31 cent zone back towards 34. And then if you're looking at our longer term time frame, so I got my log chart on right here, let me take my linear chart. We're in a falling wedge pattern that potentially when we get to that 34 cent zone, we're going to have a decision time. Are we going back down or potentially could we break through it, start heading back up towards that red line? We'll keep you posted on that. I told you guys before and I'll say it again. Cardano is one of those projects that has been very disappointing in terms of charting. In terms of trading on the charts, anyone who's been trading Cardano probably is pretty frustrated. It's not moving up to the upside the way other coins are. But here's what I will say. This is one of the strongest fundamental coins out there, and there will be a day where its price will explode. I do not know when. I just know it will happen. And so maybe right now is not the best time to be trading Cardano, but if you are an accumulator, if you are someone who's DCAing, if you're someone who's looking for a project in the next bull run that you can make a lot of money on, Cardano is one of those projects. When it goes, it will go fast, and you don't want to miss out on these lower opportunities. We're not paid by Cardano for anyone. I know we're not large enough to really get that many accusations at this point, but in case there was somebody out there saying, oh my gosh, are Tim and T-Shroom being paid by Cardano? No, we're not being paid by Cardano. We're not even giving you financial advice. I'm actually more telling you guys, me, myself as an investor, Tim Warren, I'm looking at Cardano. It's one of the strongest fundamentals out there. It's one of the few projects that I actually fully trust its security. So for me, I am looking at accumulating more Cardano. If you do not want to, that is completely fine. If you've done your research, that is great, even better. I love when people do their research and don't like things, even if it disagrees with my take. But that is my take, that Cardano is strong. Let me know what you guys think in chat. That is all I have for you guys today on technical analysis, but we will have more the next coming days and potentially some more content in the future focusing on technical analysis. T-Shroom, any thoughts you got about any of those charts or any others you think are special?
Well, I think that there was a couple chats to this effect that there is definitely more events to take place. So while the charts are saying one thing, I think that there's definitely more downside right now because you have like the Genesis was one thing that was mentioned. Eric Wallen said until the Genesis bomb drops on us, LOL, meaning, you know, there's potentially another leg down here. But then also, I don't think we're even halfway through this FTX debacle. We don't know how much the banks were exposed. You know, they're under no obligation yet to really disclose how much they were exposed to FTX. But there's all kinds of funds that was invested, and not just in the actual like retail side, the consumer side of FTX, but in the back end too. So there's a lot still to be settled there, and I think that the crypto markets have begun to appropriately price in that debacle, but it's hard to know exactly what the values are and how much, you know, percentage downside there needs to still be kind of balanced and counterbalanced in. But
but to be fair, so this is another a thought I heard. I can't remember who was saying this, but we've had capitulation events several times this year. We started off by it was the Celsius. No, Luna was first, right? Luna was the first to go, or was it Celsius? My timeline's messed up.
Oh yeah, definitely Luna.
All right, so Luna dropped us significantly. It was a big drop after Luna.
Yep.
Then later we had the Celsius drop, big drop. FTX, in all reality, was the worst news of all three of these massive capitulation events. And yet it was the least significant drop. And the point they're trying to make is every single one of these, a lot of people think they're firm holders. A lot of people think that they're diamond holders until bad things happen and they become fudsters and they end up selling their place. What this just showed us, the magnitude of FTX failing and the fact that the price only dipped the way it did, as least a little amount as it did, there are not a lot of weak holders left. Like I think the majority, I'm not saying there's none. I'm not saying that there's nobody out there that is still willing to sell. But most people still in the space they've just kind of gotten used to it. And they're just kind of like saying, hey, I'm in Bitcoin. I don't know where the bottom is necessarily, but I'm not selling. I saw today, what was the number? And I wish I grabbed it, but it wasn't a big enough detail to add because we have a lot of stories to cover. But it was talking about there's still a massive amount of Bitcoin being moved off exchanges even within the last 30 days. Well, guess what's been happening over the last 30 days? All this FTX stuff. Yeah. So some people sold. Yes, absolutely, they did. But a lot of people saw that news and said, I'm just going to move this to me was the final nail in the coffin. I'm not keeping exchanges. I'm getting a cold wallet. I'm moving my money off. So again, could another capitulation send us down? Could we still see? I have a disaster plan all the way to 9,000. Yeah. But I'm not very, very firm in thinking that that's actually going to end up happening. I'm not saying there's not going to be a new bottom, but even that, I'm like, is the new bottom only going to be like 14? Is the new bottom only going to be like 13? I mean, we're not going to have like another like $5,000. I don't know. We'll have to see. But that's just an argument out there is that even if something bad happens, every single new bad thing that happens, it comes with a less and less and less bad result. So we'll see.
All right. Well, we are reaching market open here, so I'm going to go ahead and work our way through the traditional equity market stories.
Real quick, while you do that, if you guys are new here, thank you for joining. We got over 50 people watching now. Go ahead and smash that like button. We got 49 likes. That means 2 of you, at least, have not smashed the like button yet. If you're new here and you just found us, make sure you subscribe. Where every single day, we're going to be talking about crypto and stocks, and the whole purpose is just to help you guys invest, and even you guys get to just watch our investing journey. So if that's something you love, make sure you smash the like button and subscribe.
Yeah.
Go ahead, T-Shroom.
Yeah, give it a smash. Give it a smash.
An old smash.
For sure. So we're going to start off just kind of looking at the world markets. So big news out of China as the Hang Seng closes up 4.5%. That is definitely very, very bullish for the rest of the day on the global markets. Shanghai Composite closed almost up 2%. The European markets have not closed, but they are mixed, actually on average down. So they are not seeing the same amount of optimism as the Shanghai and the Hang Seng Asian markets. But the U.S. market obviously hasn't opened. It won't open for another minute, and we're going to try to outpace it and get through everything here. The Fed CME tool predicting is still saying that 50 basis points is what's in. Yeah. So 50 basis points is still pretty in play here. It'll be interesting to see. Definitely with Jerome Powell's last remarks, there is a strong possibility that it will be 50 basis points. That doesn't mean that we're going to see a giant reversal in crypto or in equities, but it could. It absolutely could mean that.
I'm really interested to see if he addresses, if one of the reporters ask him and he addresses the job reports and the wage, because yes, the jobs went up, but it's seasonal. We know that they include seasonal. So are they just going to go on blind numbers and say, screw how we got these numbers? Or are they going to say, we realize that these numbers include seasonal jobs that'll be gone here in about a month and a half, and we're not going to keep those in consideration?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely going to be asked of him about the job numbers, because there was a lot of ambiguity. The market, wasn't exactly sure what to do with it. The numbers were hotter than expected. Going back into the trad markets, today is a big day, guys, because the EU is about to put the sanctions on Russia to where they're not going to buy Russian oil anymore. So the headline here from CNBC is that OPEC agrees to stick to existing policy of reducing oil production ahead of Russian sanctions. So the Kremlin has previously warned that any attempt to impose a price cap on Russian oil will cause more harm than good. The price cap is actually coming from a collaborative approach of the EU and the US, saying, hey, no other country that we're allied with can buy oil past this cap. And the Kremlin does not like that, and they've warned. So that could potentially be escalatory. We won't get into the military stuff of it all, but oil prices have fallen to below $90 a barrel from more than $120 a barrel in June, ahead of potentially disruptive sanctions on oil. So the prices have come down, and there's going to be a lot of volatility. Nobody knows exactly how this is going to shake out. But one thing is also playing a role here, and that is that Chinese stocks, as we saw on the Hang Seng market up almost 5%, Chinese stocks are surging back as there's an easing of some virus restriction. Fuels hopes in China will come back down from COVID zero policy. So again, we've talked about this narrative before. China has been locked down. They never really stopped. They've been going through waves of extreme lockdown to try and achieve zero COVID. Basically the rest of the world has not taken that approach. And now the Chinese government, because of a lot of protests and because the science all of a sudden is showing exactly what they want, they're starting to show signs that the momentum of opening is starting. So that could potentially push oil higher, because there's just going to be more bodies and cars driving around, and that's going to potentially drive oil higher. But this OPEC move to cut supply is also potentially going to move it higher. So I'd say that there's more forces out there that are going to push oil higher going into the winter months than are going to push it lower. But we don't know what that price cap on Russian oil is going to do. I don't think that there's been many instances in history where oil has been capped, where any industry, any commodity has been capped like that. So we're, it's kind of unprecedented, but these times are very unprecedented. So another thing that's going to have an effect on oil, then this would be to the bearish side, to the downside of oil, is that manufacturing orders from China are down 40% in unrelenting demand collapse. So this is kind of a sleeper story. I won't go too far into it, but essentially, Asia-based shipping firms, HLS, recently told clients it is a very bad time to be in the shipping industry. And basically, this translates into, hey, these ships, right, that transport all these containers, they run on diesel. So diesel is baked in absolutely into the oil price. And so, if these ships aren't going to be operating at full capacity, that's going to put a damper on oil. So the markets are open. Let's go ahead and check oil, because it's kind of the big story of the day, and it is opening pretty decidedly higher here, up 2.6% in the first opening hours of the trading session in New York. You can see there, I'm on the day chart. I'm going to go to the 1 hour candle and see just how aggressive this open is. Well, it's not that aggressive, got to be honest with you. It hasn't broken through the support line that I have drawn at 82.90. Once it starts to pass that, then I might take a position. But right now, honestly, all my eyes have been on UNG, which has had, this is natural. Oh my gosh! So at market open, you see a huge gap down lower. Now, if you took the trades that I recommended unofficially, not as that I recommended to myself, not to you, then you are actually at a net positive for that what I called farming. And Caleb Franzen actually coined the term. Kind of borrowed it from the crypto world of yield farming. So kind of farming a profit here by taking a position on both sides. It's kind of an options move, but you could go back and watch previous videos to see exactly what that is. But if you took that trade, which I did, then you're up on net, right? So I'm up, I want to say 44% on my longs on the cold ETF, and then I see how it's gapped up. So I took a position there, but I also took a position to the downside. Now, this is exactly where I want to be, surprisingly, in this market, because I have both, right? So what I'm going to do is wait a little longer until the bottom is in for natural gas, sell the short position, take that profit and put it back into the long position, because my bias is that natural gas will appreciate in value through the winter months, Tim.
Let's pause on that, because that's a place where I have a lot of learning to do, and I've seen people do this. So I want you, T-Shroom, if you can, to spend the next 3 minutes convincing me why I should use the strategy that you just used right there. Because even what you said, you came in this morning, you were like, "Oh, I'm up 32%, but I'm down 31." It was like, I'm like, so explain to me your rationale as to why you like doing you're a long one and then you're short another to hedge, and you end up breaking somewhat close to even. If you had just held tight in your U.S. dollars, you would have stayed the same. I want you to give a case, not only to myself, but all the listeners, why people should be hedging their bets.
Well, you should do it because you'll make money.
How much money?
Right.
Like, do you make a lot of money doing it that way?
So, you could just if you have a conviction in a long-term trend of a asset, natural gas being the asset with this. I don't have a conviction in oil right now. I don't know which way it's going to go. I don't know which way UNG is going to go either, natural gas, but I have a pretty strong conviction that the world's going to need natural gas going into the winter months. And so that's the main argument. The advantage is that you don't lose money. Then that's the big, you really can mitigate and control your risk of loss. So if you spend any time in the options market and watch commentators in the options market, this is what they do. It's just, what's nice is that on Robinhood and TD Ameritrade and E-Trade, you have access to ETFs that go both ways. So you don't need to get your hands dirty in the options market and expose yourself to potentially 100% loss. So it's a good strategy if you're able to be on your phone or be, on a desktop and trading probably every 2 hours.
So this is a case that you're in net benefit. So I can't remember if you said you're long, you've gained more in one of your trades than you've lost in the other.
Yeah.
How often do you get into ones where you lose more than you've gained though?
Not often, because I always have, so I've pretty much only been doing this with natural gas and silver. And so I have a bias of which both of those are going to go. And, over time, you just milk it to where you buy it at extreme, high or low. And then you just hold on to the one as it's going into profit, and then you sell it at profit, and then you just put the money back into the other one that's going the other way. Now, where you can lose is if during that transition, it just reverses and keeps going higher, and you're not exposed to benefit from that. But I suppose it's complicated, but I guess I've been doing it for long enough to where it's a little bit turnkey for me.
Yeah, I mean, if you, that's the other thing is if it works for you and that's why I asked, are you more successful than you're a failure at it? Because
yes, definitely.
Now just think of how cool it would be if you hadn't entered that short position, or was it? I think you said your short's the one that's more profitable.
Yeah.
How cool would it have been if you had just entered that short position, not that long position? But you're just saying you just didn't know for certain. Right.
And along the way, I've just been DCAing into the long position because I'm thinking, by January or February, that long position in natural gas will be higher. Now, there's a chance that it's not. But the thing is the worst thing that can happen is that I break even because I'll just hold on to that short position. Anyway, okay.
Well, we're about to transition to stories, but I want you to answer one question. Elo Brown is in chat. He is a fan, +1 hedge mode. So you got a fan in Elo Brown. He
Excellent.
said silver. What are your thoughts, T-Sherm?
So I think silver is going to be going higher. I thought it was going to go lower for a while, but I'm looking at the charts now, and I'll go ahead and bring them up. I was actually looking at it this morning. So if you take a look at silver, right now I've got a really big Fibonacci setup, and so you can kind of see it's making its way through these levels. This is silver on the daily, and this is going back to July. So as you can see it's testing higher. It's testing a higher new level that it hasn't been in since May. So that's bullish for it. And I think the reason for that is fundamentally there's a lot going on, but I think people are starting less and less to have confidence in the Fed. So that story is kind of permeating. And then also people are finding less and less comfort in getting in crypto and getting in other alternatives to the stock market. So
interesting.
That's kind of my take on silver, is that it's going to be going higher here. And the more and more that the Fed talks about CBDCs also, and the Fed is demoing their CBDCs right now with a lot of different banks, you can look into that. I believe it's the New York Innovation Bank or something like that that's running the beta for their CBDC. The more that that's talked about, the more that silver is going to go up, because people want to get the heck out of the dollar as much as possible and just get into alternative currencies.
Well, that makes sense. Well, let's go ahead and transition into some stories here. Yep. We got about 20 minutes left for the show, so hopefully we're able to do this and engage with chat a little bit before the end. Do you have to run out quick today, or is today? Yeah, you got work. Okay. Yep. All right, so today will be a darn near close to hard stop at 10 o'clock. So let's get through these stories.
Yep. So the big one, really quick, one of the big ones is that the Biden's health secretary gives an update on marijuana scheduling review directed by the president. And basically, guys, I'm just going to cut to the chase here. Cannabis has upside here. If the Democrats decide that they want to go ahead and deschedule marijuana from having the same schedule as methamphetamines and cocaine and heroin and street drugs like that, then that's going to be very big for cannabis stocks, and you should consider looking into them. Some of the big ones.
I was watching the Joe Rogan podcast from a long time ago with Ben Shapiro about this. My brain is starting to switch on this one. He was talking about there's a perceived notion of drugs and especially marijuana being a negative and it's not more. I'm trying to think of the word, but it pretty much, we think there's a moral problem with drugs.
Sure.
And he's talking about the laws. It's going to be interesting as we start to legalize them, and there's going to be regulation around them. The reason I'm saying all this is because obviously we're talking about investing in cannabis industries, and I think there's a stigma out there that people are like, hey, is there a moral dilemma there? I'm not saying everyone in chat thinks that, but I think all of us, at least at one point in life, did kind of think oh, okay, even if you did, weed, you're kind of like, oh, is this a bad thing? I think it's gonna be interesting to see how our culture transitions here over the next couple of years as we legalize it. Will that completely change? I think worst comes to worst, it should literally be thought of the same as alcohol. So that then it becomes, yes, there's some people that think that alcohol is bad as well. Yeah. But it is gonna be interesting when we're talking about these stocks, marijuana, because there can be a lot of money's going to be made in these stocks.
Oh, absolutely.
Here over the next couple of years.
Actually, if you go into my screen really quick, you can see this is MJ. So this MJ is probably the most comprehensive, meaning it has the most names in cannabis. And there's a lot. There's a lot of publicly traded names. This is kind of the cannabis ETF of choice here, and it's been ticking back up. So this is a chart going back to April of 2020. So you can see over the last 2 years, it's had a really bad bear market, but that's starting to change. Here, I'll zoom in. You can see this is my Canna watch list. Tilray is a big name, and CGC, Canopy, Growth is, they're both up really big because the White House is coming out. Now, the White House's objectives are to get people out of prison and to stop putting people in prison for drug charges related to cannabis. And I think that that's great. I think that that's long overdue, and I have a lot of political opinions on that. But overall, this is also going to open up the markets for cannabis, which has not legally, if you're a cannabis operator, you can't legally have money in a bank. Now, there's all kinds of ways around that. It's not like they're unbanked. That's not true. That's a myth. But Citibank and Goldman Sachs being able to say, hey, Tilray, go ahead and put your money with us. And we'll, that's going to be a big game changer. And that's going to be very, very big because they'll have access to debt instruments to where they can grow much more rapidly. There's a lot more to say about that. There's a big difference between Canadian corporations that are doing cannabis production and American companies have much bigger upside. I unfortunately was really early in the market and exposed myself to a lot of the Canadian names. You want to get in American names if you can. It's a little tougher to do that. Going along with the stories here, our story of thumbnail is Elon Musk alleges SBF donated over $1 billion to the Democrats.
Yeah.
Where did it go? So let's dive into this a little bit because his tweet is very, very interesting. It was kind of unsolicited, but this other individual, Will Manidis, who is pretty cool, said SBF. He was just kind of making an interesting tweet here. SBF donating $40 million to not go to jail for stealing $10 billion is one of the highest ROI trades of all time. So making a really having an interesting take there on December 1st. Elon replied though and said that's just the publicly disclosed number. His actual support of Dem elections is probably over $1 billion. The money went somewhere. Where did it go? Tim, what is your take on this?
Well, I think it's interesting because even in his, there's just, like I said, there are times you don't know when he's lying and when he's telling the truth. But in one of his interviews, I can't even remember which one at this point, SBF said that he also donated to a Republican. He just didn't make that public. He made that private because of the public perception. So, it's this whole thing. Ultimately, when you're saying that we know that over $1 billion was donated, let's just even say it was $1 billion between Republicans and Democrats. The fact that he had his solvency issues the way he did, and yet $1 billion made its way into politics is pretty sad, pretty disgusting if you ask me. But what was interesting is there's a whole lot going on here. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I got to do more digging into all the details. Supposedly there was a Twitter Spaces, which, by the way, Twitter Spaces are blowing up.
Big deal.
It seems to be the place to find things out. And yet the interviewing at this point has been very subpar. But at least I understand because I didn't get to listen to it. I listened to the one where that group interviewed SBF, which was a train wreck. Supposedly similar, like some of the people from that group ended up interviewing Elon and it went a little bit better.
Yeah.
But a lot of things have come out. Information about Hunter Biden has come out. And the good news is we're such a small channel that I'm sure other people talking about that says Hunter Biden on a YouTube channel, they're going to get flagged. Maybe if I say it over and over again, that means we're going to get flagged. But
Bunter Hyden.
Bunter Hyden, yeah. The Bunter Hyden information is coming out. And I read somewhere that said that anything that was talked about will not be able to be utilized as in a criminal investigation. But it's the confirmation that a lot of people need. I think a lot of people knew that there was some stuff going on there. The other thing that was coming out is that Twitter, there was information that Elon talked about that Twitter was involved in the election process and potential rigging of the election process. And that's where the whole title comes from today is if there's not a bigger billboard for cryptocurrency and namely Bitcoin to become a major player, not only for our currency, but for the political things as well. This all could be prevented. If we had a money like Bitcoin, if we had a decentralized currency being utilized, there's no way that SBF gets away with this for as long as he did. There's no way that Democrats get away with manipulating what's happening in elections as long as they did without us knowing about it. And there was an article here done last week that we actually didn't even talk about. But supposedly in the Democratic Party, there's a whole group. It is still a bipartisan issue. There are a lot of Democrats that like crypto, that like Bitcoin, but there's a caucus, and they call themselves the bullshit caucus. And I'm gonna pause right there. Wow. You guys know I do not cuss. That is probably the first time on the internet that I have said a cuss word. I'm just reading the article and what this caucus is called. It's called the bullshit caucus.
Wow.
And it's got some of the people you would suspect.
Hide your kids.
Elizabeth Warren is in this caucus. Yeah. We got a couple of the names I didn't recognize, but Bernie Sanders. Although Bernie, here I'll give it up to Bernie. Bernie says he's going to skip the profanity, but echoing the sentiments of the other Democrats.
Good for Bernie.
Saying that he thinks Bitcoin is bull. I'll say bull crap this time. I'm gonna stop reading the quote now.
Good for Bernie, keeping it clean for the kids.
Yeah.
Something Tim's incapable of.
We did check when the video started that this is not for kids. It's not.
It's true.
Your kids can't watch it, although this episode maybe isn't one to share.
Yeah.
But
I've got it pulled up on my screen. The U.S. does have a bipartisan effort to bring SBF to appear in an investigation hearing for December 13th. So right before, coincidentally, that big Fed decision. But go ahead, Tim.
Well, the reason I bring this up is I think it is going to be very interesting to watch as this plays out because, like I said, Bitcoin could have prevented all of this. But if there is a caucus that is saying that Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is bull crap, is it actually possible that they've started doing their research and they actually know more than they're telling us? And they know that they will no longer be able to get away with this kind of nonsense should Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency become a key role in either A, currency, or even B. This would be one of the coolest things for a cryptocurrency to be involved with, a decentralized cryptocurrency, would be in elections and tallying votes. That's something that people have been talking about for a while. But I'm going to guarantee you right now, not a single member of this Democrat caucus, this bullcrap caucus, is going to be supportive of cryptocurrency for that reason. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. This is one of those things that it makes you even more. I'm not a person who thinks that we should be voting on politicians off of one policy.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that there are significant policies that need to be going to the top of our list, though, when we're choosing who we're voting for. And I believe that cryptocurrency is the future, and it's not only for currency. I think it's time that people realize cryptocurrency and blockchain technology and Bitcoin and others, they're not just going to fix our financial woes. They're going to fix our corruption woes. So it's time to start making it very known how we're voting. It's time to start writing into our political officials, making it very clear, doing our research. What are they for? What's their research? Where have they been when it comes to cryptocurrency? And I can tell you right now, there are going to be politicians out there that are pro-crypto, but I'm going to read their other policies and say, I'm not voting for that person. But I will pay attention. What is your stance on cryptocurrency? What is your view of how it should be utilized and how it shouldn't be utilized? And that should be playing a key role into how we're looking into officials we're voting in, how we're voting for policies. So keep that in the back of your mind. But I thought that was an interesting story I wanted to cover this morning.
No, absolutely. And, Elon is just kind of the sleuth going around with his magnifying glass that is Twitter and just seeing, all of these chat logs more than likely that's going on. And he's been working with journalist Talibi, I believe, to kind of expose a lot of these different things. And it is really making a splash in the media. There were a couple of stories that were dropped by you guys in the comments, and I wanted to just kind of read those headlines before we exit out here. So the one of the big ones is Ripple files final submission against SEC as landmark case nears end. The 2-year-long battle between SEC and Ripple is approaching the end, with Ripple filing its final submission in its case against the U.S. regulator on December 2nd. The other headline here is that Circle and Concord terminate planned transactions. So it looks like they were going to be there was going to be I guess it's a SPAC or something like that, was helping Circle go public. That has been terminated. But yeah, definitely some big news here today. Oil, everything from, the bridge. Did we talk about the bridge? Yeah, we talked about
we mentioned it earlier.
Mentioned the bridge,
which is interesting. I mean, there's not a lot to dive in there. Yeah. I am interested to know more, and I'm going to have to do more research on it. I told someone in chat, I think it was Elliot Locke, that I'm going to do more research on it because I saw the article about XRP and about Ripple. I want to know more because I haven't seen anything to say this, but there are some people speculating. We discussed this news last week when Coinbase took XRP off of the Coinbase wallet, quoting low usage. Which is stupid.
Yeah.
But some people suspected that it was potentially that Brian Armstrong and Coinbase knew something that the rest of us didn't, and that something bad was going to happen in the lawsuit. And I haven't heard anything bad happen, but...
Now, what I will say that's very interesting is I was doing quite a bit of research. They also took XLM off for low usage.
Well, there was like 5 or 6 they took off for low usage. Yeah. The biggest one on there was XRP, though. And quoting, and my reason for saying low usage is a stupid reason is why am I going to use it? Your usage is going to be low when you're not allowed to purchase it. Like I can purchase XLM, and I think it was wrapped Bitcoin, like Bitcoin Cash got taken off. You can purchase Bitcoin Cash on Coinbase. Yeah. So the fact that there's low usage, that makes sense. But XRP, I cannot purchase XRP on Coinbase. Yeah. So why would I be storing it on a Coinbase wallet? Yeah. Like that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah. I think a lot of those other names were just giving themselves the benefit, showing the market, hey, you guys can give us the benefit of the doubt because we're also delisting these other names. The biggest one by far is XLM because XLM is seen as a direct competitor with XRP in some ways. I know XRP does cater more to bigger institutions, whereas Ripple tries to, XLM, Stellar Lumens, tries to cater to the retail space through remittances. And they got a really big partnership with MoneyGram this year. But ultimately, XLM was positioned to benefit a lot if it had just been XRP that was delisted, but they delisted them both, which kind of like it really stunts the effect and the severity of the narrative to the crypto space.
I have a take that I think is going to make a lot of people upset, and I want to hear. You know, I will start by saying
we need to get a soundboard.
More research could be done, but in my limited research on it, XLM to XRP is like SHIB to Dogecoin.
In a sense.
Dogecoin was first. And I think so. For those reasons, I think Dogecoin is going to always be the top meme coin. And a lot of things are coming out about Dogecoin. They're working on it to try to make it actually have a legitimate use case and have some more fixed rules to it, so it's a better currency. But Shiba Inu, I know Shiba Inu's team has been working on a lot of developments, but I just don't think Shiba Inu will ever overtake Dogecoin. It was a copycat of Dogecoin. Same thing with XLM and Stellar Luma. It was literally created by the same people as XRP. And it has a couple tweaks to it, but in all reality, here's my belief. If XRP goes down, so does Stellar Lumens. If XRP is successful, XLM can stay relevant, but it's never going to be as good as XRP. So for those reasons, why would I go invest in it instead of XRP? I think that it's almost like they're tied to each other, but one will always be better than the other, and that one is XRP.
Yeah, so this is the guy who created both XLM and XRP, and he is currently he holds a lot of XRP. I believe he wasn't legally able to sell his XRP, and so he managed to just ascend with it, his net worth at least. But he's 100% the leader of the XLM team of Stellar. He's not on the I don't think he's on the board or anything of XRP. Because they weren't aligned with their mission and their values. But the code itself, the blockchain itself, minus XRPL, minus the ledger, which is and RippleNet, so XLM is very, very similar in terms of the code to XRP. So they have a ton of similarities, but honestly, there's so much going on in crypto. Always, there's so much to keep up with, but kind of as we reach the end here, what are some main takeaways that you're thinking about this market in general? Kind of where are you thinking you're wanting to put your money in the next move? And you don't, I'm asking chat, but I'm also asking Tim, kind of what's your next opportunity here?
I think it's going to be really interesting, A, to see what Jerome Powell says next week on Wednesday, and then B, how the market responds. That's the other thing is the market doesn't always necessarily immediately respond based off how we think it will. So I actually can go ahead and just guarantee you, if the remarks that he makes are somewhat bearish and we call them hawkish when we're talking about what he says, but if they should result in bearish price action, I'm more to believe that what you're going to see is about 24 hours, maybe a little less, of green candles followed by a decent, relief and a fall with red candles. Vice versa, if he is super bullish, I actually would not be surprised to see the market go down a little bit for about 24 hours and then rally. But I still, at this point, when I'm looking at the charts, I don't know how much higher we can go. And the thing, and we talked about this last week, do not be surprised, even if the bottom is in. Even if, what was the lowest we had? 15. I'm gonna fact check myself really quickly as fast as I can. The bottom that we hit, the lowest price that we've hit so far is 15,476. All right. Do not be surprised that even if 15,476 was the bottom and we never go lower than that number ever again, that does not mean we rally above 20,000 and start heading back towards 30,000 this month. We could spend the next couple of months bouncing between 15,000 and 20,000 and have some great trade opportunities and have some great time to continue to build up your DCA and acquire more Bitcoin because everyone should have the goal of accumulating at least one Bitcoin. And if you have your one Bitcoin, maybe it's time to get your portfolio situated the way you want it and then start aiming for 2 Bitcoins, 3 Bitcoins, 4 Bitcoins. Maybe some of you are out here trying to get all the way to 100 Bitcoins. I don't know what everyone's financial levels are at. You got to treat this time as a good time to do that. And I'm not convinced the bottom's already in, but even if it is, that doesn't mean I don't think we're revisiting 16,000, 15,500, and then bouncing all the way up maybe towards 18, 20,000, getting a lot of hope up, getting a lot of maybe newer investors or people who are just tired of waiting this long. They're saying, oh, finally, the bull market's back, and they're going to buy at 20,000, and it's going to get liquidated and go all the way back down to 16,000. I believe that that's going to happen. I think it's going to be probably at least mid-year, if not later in 2023, that we finally start to see us moved back to the upside. And then we're not going to probably see the top of the bull market until closer to 2025. It might be well into 2024 before we even get back to 69,000.
Yeah.
Nobody knows 100%. I don't have this crystal ball, but what I'm seeing in the market, I'm just not going to be surprised to see us continue to trade sideways. And when you're looking at previous bear markets, that's consistent. We actually see that happen where we hit a bottom and then we trade sideways for the next couple of months before finally a bull rally comes back.
Yeah, it's pretty wild stuff for sure. I kind of concur. I think you have to be careful here. I'm not putting any money that I can't afford to lose into that I need really for my expenses going forward into December and into January. I cannot be DCAing at the same level that I was. I'm actually pulling back a little bit, not by a ton, but just by a little bit. I am kind of shifting my mentality to trying to buy the bottom a little bit, and I know that you just spent some time kind of going against that thesis, but that's just me. That's just my personal finances, the way I'm positioned. But yeah. I mean, obviously, have I waned in my belief in Bitcoin? Not at all. The more research I do, the more I understand about the Fed and how international banks communicate and the way that they transfer funds, the more I'm like, Bitcoin is the way. It is going to be extremely, extremely valuable in the future. And things like Ethereum are also going to be extremely valuable for completely different reasons, actually, surprisingly, just because it is kind of the backbone of Web3. And I know I'm preaching to the choir with that. It's not like you guys didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, it is 10 o'clock and T-Shroom is definitely needing to run out of here. But thank you to everyone who came in and watched. We still have 43 people watching. Thank you so much. We have 71 likes, so I'm assuming everyone has smashed the like button. But if you have not, make sure on your way out you do that. And make sure also, if you're not already subscribe to the channel and comment below what your thoughts are. We had a lot of great takes today. We want to know what you guys think about it. And also, what are some things you want to hear in the future shows? We don't even have a full week yet under our belt, but already this channel is growing. Thank you so much. It is a very bright future, and we will see you guys tomorrow, same time, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. With that being said, though, have a great day. Goodbye.